Hi, and thanks for tuning in today. I've got a problem with my MGB 1973 MGBGT, and it's a starter motor problem, so I'll just show you what happens when I get the switch going. So when I switch the ignition on, all I get is a click. First thing to do then is disconnect the battery. So let's have a look at how the starter motor works then. So this is the main motor. This is powered by heavy duty cables and allows the Bendix to turn when it's engaged with the flywheel, and that will turn the engine over. This is a pre-engaged starter motor, so there's 3 bolts that attach the solenoid to the body of the starter motor itself, and when power is applied, this plunger is drawn into the body of the solenoid, and that will move the Bendix onto the flywheel and will then engage. This spring here, when you take power away, that'll push the plunger away and draw the Bendix back. So let's have a look at a diagram. Here's the body of the starter motor. There's the flywheel and the Bendix. Here's the solenoid. Inside the solenoid is this plunger with the spring attached to the bottom, and the battery. So it's a simplified electrical circuit, so there's obviously a lot more between the battery and the starter motor. So the earth of the body is attached to the negative of the battery, and the positive of the battery is attached to this part of the solenoid, which is here. So there'll be heavy duty wire here because there's a lot of amps going through here, and on the back of the solenoid itself there's another terminal, this one here, that's represented in this diagram here. So power will be put into that terminal there, and when you turn your key, that allows power to pass into the solenoid itself. That will activate the solenoid, that will draw the solenoid down, and by a lever that is located in here, that will allow the Bendix to move forward, engage into the flywheel itself, and the only thing that's left to do is to allow the power from the battery to go via this heavy duty cable from this terminal to this terminal. And the way it does that is that here is a large contactor, which when the solenoid is drawn down will make contact here and here, and as you can see, the power will come from the battery through this large ampage wire into this terminal, across this bridge into the second terminal, and then it passes into the starter motor itself by means of this connecting cable here. So that's in the diagram there. Once you take away power from here, solenoid releases and the plunger rises. This lever disengages the Bendix here. So that's what's supposed to happen. In my car, I turn the key, I can hear the solenoid moving, it makes a big click, so the Bendix is engaging, And what I think is happening is there's a break in the circuit on one of these terminals, or both of them, probably from corrosion. Okay, so the solenoid itself is not designed to be taken apart, and this part of the body here, it's got a lip on the top, so that's this part here, and then you've got the internal part of the solenoid itself with stuff going on below here. So in order to take it apart, I'm going to cut it along here, take this off, which should leave me with a bit of metal like this, and also these terminals here will have to be desoldered. So what we're going to do is heat it up, take the solder out, and that should allow the whole unit to detach. So I'll get on with that and then I'll show you once I've done it. Okay, so I've cut all the way around here to release this lip, and here's the lip itself, revealing the internal electrical components. Now the only thing that's holding the electrical components on is this solder point here and this solder point there, so I've just got to desolder them and then the whole thing should slip away, and I'll show you what's underneath. I'm going to melt the solder at each of these terminals, and then I'm going to use some air to blow it off. Don't forget to wear some very good eye protection. So there's one side done. So now I'm going to start the other side. Okay, and there's the terminal cleaned off. Okay, there's the inside, and as you can see, the terminal is very dirty and it's probably not making a very good connection at all. And there's the other side of it. So I think that's probably the problem. Okay, what I'm going to do is clean off those terminals, reassemble it, weld that cap back on, and then hopefully it will work. I've cleaned up the terminals on the cap, and here's the plunger. And I think you can see some witness marks which indicate which way round the plunger has been installed. So I'm just going to reverse it the other way around so that the witness marks don't line up anymore, and that should help make a better contact. So I'm going to put it back together again now. Okay, so it's time to test it. Here's the battery connected, positive, terminal, negative terminal. So the negative terminal would be grounded by the starter motor bolted to the engine and the gearbox. The positive terminal will go through several components and then end up with a positive power to this terminal here. And if you remember, this terminal needs to be engaged with power, and that's via the beam that crosses the solenoid here. And this simulates the turning of the key, which is connected to the terminal just behind here. And hopefully when I touch this will be me turning the key, and the solenoid will engage, join these two terminals together, and the starter motor should begin to fire. So that's a very nice engagement there. Cleaning up these terminals has definitely done the trick. All that's left now is I'll clean up these welds and then cover this with a waterproof material. Then it's back on the car and we'll test it. So there we go, the starter motor is back in the car. Tightened up the top and the bottom bolts, the electrical connections are made, and I've just reconnected the battery. It's time to give it a go and see if the engine will turn over. Now this hadn't been started for a few months, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but it should start as well. Okay, so I'm very pleased with that. A very nice firm engagement, and the engine's turning over nicely. Just need to get some decent fuel in there and the engine should start. Okay, here's the starter motor, just here, and there's a bolt right at the top. It's quite difficult to get out because this hose is in the way, and this hose is part of the oil cooler system. This is the return oil cooler pipe, and what I found is if you take it off here, you won't get any oil seeping out, and it just makes this nut easier to get to. Now this bolt is a lot easier to get to here. So here's the starter motor, and these are the electrical cables. This one here is the one, if you start, this is live, so if you start using your spanners and you touch the side of the engine, you're going to end up with a big spark, and that's why you disconnect the battery. And this one here, see if I can get my camera on it. Get the light on it so you can see it a bit more clearly. And that's the bottom securing bolt for the starter motor. So you just need to undo that, and then the starter motor will come out of this gap just here. Well, thanks for watching my video, and I hope the video has been useful for you or interesting.